Welcome to the Dogtor Bros, where we have an honest discussion around vet life in and out of the clinic. My name is Brandon. I'm your doc of the day and your guide through this episode. I'm here with my closest friends from vet school.
Hey, this is Jeff. I'm a veterinary dermatologist in Louisville, Kentucky.
Hey, this is Chris. I'm a GP in North Carolina.
And this is Adam. I am a relief veterinarian in Louisville, Kentucky.
And today we are also joined by our good friend again, Dr. Shune Kimura. We welcome him back. He's a Japanese board-certified large animal internist pursuing a PhD at the University of Georgia. And if you haven't listened to it already, go back and check out his episodes from season 1, where we talk about his career path and imposter syndrome. And I specifically didn't mention this on the beginning, like our normal intro, but I'm officially a board certified internal medicine specialist. So whenever this, whenever this episode airs, you'll be hearing it for the first time.
What a nerd!
For the first time on the pod. So looking forward to that moving forward.
Says the internist.
Yeah, we have 2 internists in the house. It's fantastic. Alrighty. Well, we're going to play a little opening game, something a little different. Might be a little silly, but we'll see how it goes, and maybe we'll bring it back if it's a favorite. So the game for these guys, I'm going to, first off, the name of the game, what's the vet word? So I am going to think of a veterinary term. It could be anything from a disease, an object, something related to veterinary medicine. And these guys have to guess. We'll make it quick. If you think of it, just shout it out. And if someone gets it right, the points don't matter and everybody wins. All right. So first word. The word I'm thinking of, it is something that allows me to see inside a patient.
Radiographs.
Ultrasound.
Do we just
MRI.
shout it out?
Shout it out. Well,
Endoscope.
Shune got it though. Ultrasound. The next clue is going to be it makes black and white images. So it's basically going to be either X-rays or ultrasound.
Yeah, give me radio.
All right. So that was an easy one. Making sure you guys are awake. All right. Number 2. We'll do 3 total. Number 2. This is a common metal instrument that's used in the clinic.
Scalpel.
Oftentimes it's used on the operating table.
Scalpel.
Not a scalpel.
Hemostat. Needle drivers.
Hemostat. Wow, of all the ones that you just go right to it. Shune's 2 for 2.
It's that internist wavelength.
What up?
I'm starting
All
with
right.
you.
This last one will be a little bit harder. This will be a little harder. All right, so we have, it's a handheld object.
Lactometer. Glucometer.
Photoscope.
It is
Thermometer.
a piece of glass.
Microscopic slide.
I need a light source to use it.
Specific gravity.
Ultrasound probe.
I'm not hearing it yet.
No?
Light.
More clues.
Microscope.
I use it to look in a patient's eye.
Glasses.
Oh,
Shoot.
ophthalmoscope.
Ophthalmoscope.
Not quite.
What?
What can you use instead of an ophthalmoscope?
Indirect ophthalmoscope.
Indirect lens. That's what I was looking for.
Oh, come on.
I hate it here.
Collusion.
Yeah. Oh, the internist gets all of these right. Weird.
Yeah, internists use hemostats all the time.
Yeah, seriously. I'm signing off.
Piss.
All right. Well, we'll see if
I
we
guess
bring
that's
that
the
back.
end. Is that the end of the podcast? Is that it? Are we done?
Hate it here.
So, all right, that's all the time we have.
Best
All
game
right,
ever.
Well, Shune destroyed you guys. So it's
What
that
up,
PhD
nerds?
he's working on. All right. Well, we'll get into today's topic. All right. So moving on, we do have an episode regarding the publishing process and review of research and scientific articles with Dr. Julia Miller. Please go and check that out. The episode today will reflect more on how to conduct research specifically and less on the editing and reveal process that comes after it is submitted to a journal. So starting with Shune, if you don't mind giving us a brief overview of your experience with research, and then we'll get into everyone's opinion on things. So just kind of run through your previous experience.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me back, guys. So I'd say earliest research experience I did was before vet school at Georgia Tech. There was one lab that was in neuroengineering, and the other one was more biomechanics. It was for a semester. I would say that it wasn't anything particularly where I think I got my experience, and it was an interesting experience, and that was sort of it. My real interest in research really started during the first summer after vet school. So that was when we did a summer scholars program. I did one at UGA. It was called Georgia's Veterinary Scholars Program, which is a summer research program that was supported. It was previously by Marielle, and then now it's by Boehringer Ingelheim. Brandon, I think you did that at Auburn, right?
I did. Yep.
Yeah, that was a way for vet students to see what veterinary research was like, how it contributed to this idea of One Health. So after that summer, I got to work with my the mentor now. So through that program, I met my mentor, Kelsey Hart. And so I got to work with Dr. Hart that following summer and on a different summer research project. And then after that, I really got to do my bigger project from sort of start to finish at Auburn where I did my large animal internal medicine residency. And then doing my PhD now, I've come to sort of do an even bigger research project, sort of starting with the concept of it and then looking at the different projects to sort of answer that for my dissertation. So that's kind of where I am now.
Very good. Do you mind giving us a little snippet of like the specifics of your current research?
The crux of it is the project is surrounding what we call systemic inflammatory response syndrome, or SIRS. It's what you see in situations like sepsis, where there's a massive inflammation that the body's sort of wrecking itself, trying to, tamp down some of these infections. So that's what you see in sepsis. So my research is looking in specifically in horses and adult horses, where you see a lot of these metabolic derangements that are happening and a lot of times you think of it as, the body is sort of going haywire. And because of that, you've got these metabolic derangements. Some of the research now is looking at how some of those metabolic dysfunction is also sort of contributing to the immune system also going haywire. So it's this vicious cycle. So that's where my research is sort of looking at that specifically in horses and looking at ways to sort of break those cycles and sort of correct correct metabolic derangements as a way of also letting that immune system sort of figure itself out.
All right. That's a big topic. I know, having dealt with SIRS in patients in the past, if we can find any sort of breakthroughs to help like stop that cycle, treat parts of that cycle, and like get to the underlying problem and treat them, that's a big deal. So that's really cool that you're working on that.
Yeah, it's fun. It's it's one of those things where that was really the hook that got me interested in working with Dr. Hart. She does a lot of stuff with her research focuses in endocrinology and immunology, and what she is known for in part is some of the stuff with full sepsis. And so that really actually was the hook that kind of got me into equine medicine and into research. And so, I feel like, well, one of the real lucky portions was that my residency also got to do that. And so it's just sort of been able to continue and sort of look into that a lot. A lot of my clinical experience in part is in SIRS. And so we see a lot of that in our really bad GI cases in horses and pneumonia and things like that too. So it's definitely a big part of my clinical experience in general. And so being able to have that relevant context for doing this research now has been really rewarding. And I think it's a really big motivator.
This is Adam. So just kind of a general question, and if you want to give specific examples, that works too. But obviously, research costs money. So where Where's the main source of funding come from, and what are kind of the differences between some of the cheaper things you need to provide for, or when you need to go all in and really expend resources on a specific area?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So when it comes to where does the money come from, some of that is from really generous private donors, and so there are people that really have real personal cases or personal experiences with specific diseases, and they're really supportive in the cause of the institution, like for us at the University of Georgia. And then they'll be willing to fund fund parts of a project, parts of a cause, or something like that, and that goes into a grant funding scheme so that different individuals or different researchers can sort of obtain that funding for specific components. There are grant agencies. So there's big ones like the Morris Animal Foundation. There's also, and I can really talk more about it for horses specifically, because that's what I know. And Brandon, JT, please, Jeff, please, add to the small animal part. But there's Morris Animal Foundation. They're a real big contributor of, a lot of, not just horses, but, dogs, cats, what have you. There's the Grayson Jockey Club is one that has funded mine as well. The American Quarter Horse Foundation, the veterinary pharmacology, research as well. There's another one for Birmingham Racing Commission. There's a lot of different bunch of these organizations that are out there that are that also have foundations that are willing to to fund these. Another one is American Veterinary Medical Foundation as well.
So I'll just add, this is Brandon again. For my research that I did as a resident, I was sponsored by VCA, and they paid for a small portion of my research, as well as some funding that was already distributed through a grant that my mentor had applied for, and I believe that was a government grant. And then I have a research project that I was involved with, but it's not published yet, that a private company was specifically sponsoring that research. So I know there's a lot of different outlets for funds. I think it, like Shune said, it just kind of depends on where your research lies and like what kind of groups, or like whether it's a company or government or whatever, is going to benefit from that research.
Yeah, that's actually a good point too. I think you've got other companies, right, like pharmaceutical companies or things like that might be looking at how well their product may or may not work, and a lot of times with those, there's that conflict of interest, so they try and steer away from I think you put in the disclosure statement like, oh, so and so company funded this looking at a product, just to make sure that it's transparent. I'd say that the professors or investigators that I know that are working with some of those companies really try to make sure that they are doing their due diligence, making sure that it's really not showing the results that necessarily the company wants, but making sure that they're actually answering a specific question, so it's not it's not shady. So I think because of that, it's pretty sensitive, or they're very careful and intentional to make sure that's not there, because obviously that can cause problems. But I think it's another means of funding that you get is to try and advertise to some of these companies, or to say, hey, we'd like to see how well this works for this species, for example. Would you be interested in funding it? One example is that there's been a lot of like stall side or bedside rapid test kits that might be good for a cross species. So if it's for a dog, for example, then it's like, and then they'll say maybe this can work on a horse. Can we try and validate it? So that's a pretty good one where there isn't, a lot of conflict of interest. It's, it's something where it's like, hey, can this be predictable? And that's pretty, hard and fast. So I think that would be one example for like a private company funding a specific type of research.
It's interesting. Just really quickly, like one of the ones that I worked on was also kind of like a test that we normally would send out and have to get back over multiple days to a week. And they're working on a bedside panel, essentially. So it's really cool to see that they're working on those kinds of things. And it makes sense that cross-species like investigation is being done. So if it's already kind of been developed in a way. Did you guys have any other questions just generally about research?
This is Chris. What would be your biggest pain point in research?
Biggest what? Pain point? Like what's
your pain point? Like what causes you? What's difficult about research? I mean, I feel like you can go on forever about
Gives you
that.
The biggest headache.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to cut you off. I will
What's not painful?
That could be a whole episode, probably.
I know. So, this is Jeff. I'll say, so like I've done my single research project, and it was on food allergies in dogs. And one of the pain points I would say that has always stuck with me, and unfortunately is probably why a lot of, like, as residents, we have to do research. Probably why a lot of people don't go on to do them is because there are a lot of really tedious parts of research. Like if you're not research minded, like maybe Shune, and want to live your whole life out in research. One thing that we dealt with in my project was it was a diet study. So like we had to have patients come, obviously day 0, they had to come back for 2 more times, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it was actually really challenging just to get people to come back for a tremendous amount of frankly free things. So like exams were free, cytologies were free, the diet was free. They got diet after the study for free for a couple of extra months. Cultures were free. Everything, I think, except for the medications, if they needed any, antimicrobials, things like that, antibiotics were free. And it was really challenging to get people to come back. We still got a good turnout, but like that was one thing that made me crazy, is because I was staying late after work, literally calling, like begging people to come in to meet their deadlines. Like, please, it's still free. Please, please. Like, I will stay here till 6:30. Like, please, could you just come and just like, I just need to see this dog and how they're doing, please, for the study. Like, that was a real challenge.
Yeah, compliance is so hard, and
compliance.
I every time I read so and so is lost to follow up, I have to give a little bit of prayer, because obviously every one of those people that were lost to follow up broke some poor investigator's heart. Every single one of them.
Oh, it's so painful.
So, listeners, if you don't want to break poor JT's heart, please make sure to follow up.
Yeah, there are people who enrolled in my study who just like were never seen again. And I was so perplexed. And I was like, but it's for free.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah. I think this gets to the complexity of performing research just in general, let alone in veterinary medicine. Because those of us that have been involved, like one of the biggest challenges is getting, appropriate numbers of either patients or participants for the research. Some of the challenges are, like you guys just said, follow up, and depending on the complexity of your like design, the study of design, you could be getting one blood test and being done. You could be doing one treatment and being done and getting a response, or it could be as complex as we need this many patients at this age of this breed with this condition, but none of these conditions on none of these meds. And it can be very complex. So I'm kind of curious on y'all's experience dealing with that aspect of it as well.
Having buy-in is so hard, right? I think that whether it's the clients, sometimes it's doctors that you've got trying to help you with the study. I think, there's so many people that you have to convince, and beyond. And I think, so when you were asking the question of pain point, it was going to go back to the original question that Adam asked, which was with money, because money is a big one, right? And you have to ask all these grant agencies that, your project is worth funding. And then even after that, you then have to, if you have collaborators or, other doctors that you're reaching out to or clients, you have to convince them that it's worthwhile and, they need to be part of every part of it. So, it's really, it can be hard because when it comes to a grant, you're asking for it. It sort of feels like dating when it comes to, giving a real fast elevator pitch about why your research is worth it, why you're worth funding with all of this money. And then sometimes you get feedback about why you got ghosted and why you were rejected. And other times you get ghosted and it's heartbreaking because then you're left with, what was wrong with it. And so I think that can be, and I'll tell you that during my PhD, my project, I've gone through so many grant writings and so many times I've gotten rejected. And sometimes I got no feedback on it whatsoever. Sometimes I got feedback that wasn't even relevant to my project, which was a huge pain point. And sometimes it's because I might have had a pretty good research project grant, but if they were looking for, three projects to grant, I was number 4 consistently, which was brutal. And I think that goes to the, a money pain point, but I think I guess I also share that from the sense of trying to get all of these different people that are involved in your research, because your research never happens in a vacuum, right? So the number of people you have to convince to have buy-in and follow through with your vision is pretty tough. Just out of curiosity, Chris and Adam, have you been reached out to by other universities to be part of studies, like small or large?
Never.
If we have, I never saw it because I don't really get any of the emails and stuff like that for it, and so I don't know. We might have.
Does it just go to?
It doesn't. Well, I'm not in a leadership position, so it doesn't really affect. I don't really get those emails, or would be part of that to say yes or no to something like that.
Fair enough.
Well, in a similar vein, are you guys familiar with any of the active research at universities or specialty hospitals near you? Just for example, my practice is 15 minutes from Colorado State University's veterinary hospital, and they have all of their research posted online so that if I have a case that kind of lines up with something that they're working on, I can say, hey, this is our clinical trials information. I think you have a chance of maybe getting part of your pet's care covered through funding associated with this research. I recommend following up there.
I don't keep up with any of that, to be honest. We're just far enough away from NC State where it's a little bit far for people to go out there to do it. So people complain about driving half an hour, and NC State's about an hour and a half, 2 hours for clients to drive up there. So I would say no.
Yeah, and like Chris said, for me, I'm not in a leadership position per se at work, so I'm probably not seeing if they are sending those emails. But also, closest vet school to where I am, I mean, what would you say, JT? Maybe Purdue, maybe Lincoln Memorial,
Ohio State,
several hours away.
Which is still not
maybe
close.
Ohio State, nothing super close. So nothing super close to us, so probably not reaching out to our area as often.
I have a follow-up question with y'all. Man, who's the host now?
Apparently, Shune.
Do you feel like you've had? I guess we're pretty old now, right? We've been out of practice.
No.
We've been out of that school for 8 years.
Couldn't be me.
No, bro. Okay. So, has there been anything when it comes to the way that you practice that has changed because of some recent research, or do you feel like it stayed pretty level in terms of how you have practiced from when you look at 2 years into practice versus now?
That's a great question. So this is Adam. So I can't think of any specific examples, but I will say a lot of times when it comes to me diving into research articles and that sort of thing. Obviously, you have like the big ones come out that they're definitely going to notify you with and get the information out there. But a lot of times it comes down to like, okay, I have this specific question about this case, or like, I can't figure out what's going on here. Let me dive into it deeper. And then I find some research articles that kind of give me some information. And obviously, practicing as long as I kind of have my routine of, how I work up cases and how I treat cases and that sort of thing. But I will, on occasion, when I get stumped or something like that, and I find a good article and it has good recommendations, I will tweak, how I diagnose or how I treat or how I practice in general. Not in the grand scheme of things, but little tweaks here and there. And if I see it works for me, or if the patient's responding in whatever way, I may stick with that moving forward. So I would say in that respect, it's more so me being like, okay, let me learn a little bit more about this, and then going out and finding an article. And then if I see something that I can implement and I feel like it's effective, then yeah, I'm going to do that.
This is Chris. So kind of what Adam said is I'll add tweaks to things, or I'll go more into depth. Like a big thing now I've added is omega-3s for our kidney patients. And that was from Brandon talking about that on an episode. And I went to a CE talk and we were talking about adding in vitamin E for some of our liver patients. So I've added that stuff in as things more. So I don't think it's going to like change the whole lot, but I've just added more to like my toolbox to kind of treat things or add things to help out with treatments. But I mean, things are coming out. We got a Panaquil now. So that's kind of a newer thing that we've never had that monoclonal in the past. So now we can use that to treat pancreatitis. There's also the parvo virus monoclonal as well. I haven't used it yet, but it's been used in our clinic. So those are kind of some cool things now that we can use to treat specific diseases that we didn't have 2 years ago or 8 years ago. So, I mean, yeah, there's things that are changing, but I don't think it's changed a whole lot. It's just little things.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's research for you. It's gonna be small steps, but that's encouraging.
Yeah, this is Jeff. I'll say we kind of touch on this a little bit in Dr. Miller's episode as far as like, should you change how you're doing practice based on an individual journal? And the answer, of course, is like, it kind of depends always. So I'll say like, have I? Yeah. And it's interesting because like Shune, you, me, and Brandon being in specialty world, like in residency, they are shoving journals down our throats left and right. So like you just, at some point, you're going to see some good stuff that you feel like you should change for. But I also see like Chris and Adam's side of things from when I was a general practitioner. Like I was just kind of out there and just, well, in the beginning, just fighting for my life, trying to practice, not worrying as much about like, oh, is there a journal I need to look up for this? I'm like, how can I get through this day and these 15 to 20 minute appointments, just trying to make sure I complete the tasks I need to complete and help as many cases as I can. And I think it's really hard to kind of keep up with the research in that type of position just by nature of how quickly we're trying to see cases. And I think from a GP standpoint, one thing that I got was like from CE dinners, like if a specialist mentioned a journal, I would take a picture of it. And I even saw that recently. I just went to a dinner where I wasn't speaking and was like supporting a colleague. And a lot of people would take pictures of like the updated abstracts or journals. And I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. And it like kind of brought back that memory of like, that's when I would go look something up and that could potentially change my practice based on what was new. So that's kind of like it's a good thing that CE requirements exist because it kind of forces you to be a little fresher. And for my daily practice, I think I changed, like to answer your question, I think I am at a point where I don't make drastic changes all the time, but I'm always interested in what's new. And I'm always pivoting a little bit, kind of like Adam was saying, like he'll change when there's like when presented with new information, just kind of being open to what's new. I think it's really important because if I read something that's quote unquote groundbreaking, I'm like, all right, like let me try this new technique in a couple cases, or let me let me try this new test out. There's something new about it. But I think the biggest thing is like when that research that comes out that's super clinical, those are the ones that really, like the ones you can literally hear from a dinner and take to work the next day. Those are the ones I think are the best because they're super applicable to what you're doing, as opposed to like benchmark studies or sometimes retrospectives compared to perspectives don't always hit the mark, but it very much depends on the study.
Yeah, I really like the question that you asked you, and I was just doing some quick digging. It's like one of the best examples that I can think of about what you discussed in your question is like we graduated, believe it or not, back in 2017. That's cool. At that time, like everyone's familiar with the SDMA blood test.
Yeah.
For kidney disease. Mm-hmm. So I don't believe that we were taught about that in vet school. Correct.
No.
So
tail end.
So
no, maybe we heard about it. I feel like I heard about it in clinics, but it's all fuzzy.
You're old now. So you're just blending it together with like your internship.
Don't put that evil
residency.
On me.
I'm just saying.
I know.
You're young at heart, buddy.
So I was trying to see. So like for me, I don't think that I thought too much about it. Until IDEX kind of started talking about it and released it. And that was essentially like shortly after we finished vet school. Just for some context, like they were looking into SDMA in human medicine back in 2006. So that's some of the early research that I can find in 2011. And then a lot of the research that was started, or at least the research project that they released from IDEX, well, I believe was from in 2016. But even back in 2014, there's research, like an article from JVIM, Journal of Veterinary Internal Medicine, regarding serum concentrations in kidney disease. So it's one of those things where, like, if you're in the thick of it, like we are or we were in residency, it's just anything that's cutting edge is getting shoved at you. And then when you're a GP or maybe not in a program like that or not in an institution like that anymore, some of those things kind of trickle down over time or when it's released by one of these big diagnostic companies. So it is interesting to kind of see when a certain person in their different positions is exposed to some of the more cutting edge research and how that affects their practice, whether it be when it comes out or, later down the road. And I think that's a good place to kind of end on. I will say we'll just have a quick outro question. In particular for, I guess anyone could kind of answer this, but really directed at Shune. What is one research project or topic that you hope gets covered in the future? Or what would you like to see in the future as far as research in general or veterinary specific research?
Boy, that's a big question. So I think one of the things that I'm also interested in is pharmacology. And so that's the study of drugs. I think for me, seeing more pharmacologic studies when it comes to what I'm interested in it, which is SIRS, I think I would love to see more things coming, moving from the experimental side to the application. And part of that block is that there's just so many things out there that aren't working. And so I really hope that there's more breakthroughs there. And that's obviously a personal desire because I'm with it in the thick of that research itself. I think that it would be great to find more early diagnostics for diseases that we can really do early recognition for. I think, cancer is one. And I think also when it comes to some of these infectious diseases and also for sepsis, that would be great. And I would love to see more cures for diseases that we don't have cures for. So those are the ones that I do.
This is Jeff. I'll be super brief and say I would really like to see more studies on food allergy. Like that was my research, but as far as like diagnostic testing, it's very not good right now. So I would love for one day for us to be able to do a test, it be really, really accurate, and then I think it would just revolutionize a lot of pets' lives, make my life easier, make me not have to lecture on prescription diet trials in the future if we're so good at testing that it becomes obsolete. but I think we're pretty far off from that. But I think that would be amazing.
Chris, Adam, any other thoughts on like future research that you'd like to see?
This is Adam. I will throw one out real quick, not to open a whole can of worms with this, pardon the pun, but it's about heartworms. I've seen some dogs who have been treated, quote unquote, treated for heartworms with what they call the slow kill method, where they just put them on prevention, do the round of doxycycline, but don't administer the omidicide injections later on. And I have personally seen where those dogs, after a few months, test negative for heartworms after doing a round of doxycycline and a few doses of a prevention. And I did find one article that kind of touched on it, but it didn't go into super great detail. And obviously that's kind of a hard thing to research, because unfortunately in that study they had to euthanize the dogs and kind of open the heart and get in there and see, what was going on. But I did find that interesting that we were getting, I've seen it a couple times where we get, a negative test when they're just on doxycycline and prevention. So just kind of, not saying that's the treatment of choice by any means, but I think there's some interesting research that could be done there.
All right, very good. And yeah, I'll just end, like, just generally speaking, I'm really interested to see more research being conducted or utilized or utilizing AI. So specifically like generative AI, large language models. I think there's going to be an explosion in pharmacology. I think there's going to be an explosion in our ability to target diagnostic tests towards individual proteins or biomarkers with the aid of that technology. And it's going to be really exciting. So that's what I'm looking forward to in the future. All right. So thank you so much, Dr. Kimura, for being on. Would you like to share any social media spots where we can find you?
Yeah, I have a professional Instagram, so it's at kimura.vet. And otherwise, that's really about it for me. I'm not quite as prolific as you celebrities.
All right. Well, thanks, guys, for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you once again for joining us on the Dogtor Bros.
If you would like to support us, please share this episode with others who may be interested in today's topic, and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Would you like to influence our next episode? We love hearing your opinions and thoughts. Your comments may be our next topic.
Please leave us suggestions via email at thedoctorbros@gmail.com, DM us at thedoctorbros on Instagram, or leave us comments on our posts. Again, this is Brandon. You can reach me at Dr. Mason IM on Instagram.
And this is Chris, and you can reach me on Instagram at dr.chrishernandez.
And this is Jeff. You can find me on Instagram at DermDrJeff, DermDogtorJeff.
And this is Adam. You can reach me on Instagram at DrAdamDVM. That's DrAdamDVM.